The special simulcast of the Neil Haley Show and celebrity interviews live from the Grotto with Greg Hanna. Greg, what's going on, man? How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing fantastic. Neil, how about you?
I'm ready for the 60-day hustle because if I can have someone in the seat like this, and I'm sure he's hundreds of thousands of dollars an hour or like thousands of dollars an hour to get to coach, and I get him one-on-one, go figure, Greg. We have Rudy Moore join us to talk about 60-day hustle on Amazon. How are you, Rudy? Thanks for stopping by.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here. I'm good and always hustling.
I love
Yeah.
always hustling. Your chair is perfect for me. I'm 6'10". I
Um,
need a chair like that. And that would be a normal chair for me, Rudy, wouldn't it?
Yeah, that's the truth. Rudy, tell us about the 60-day hustle.
yeah, so 60 Day Hustle is kind of designed to be this entrepreneurial show. I got my dog here too.
Oh,
It's designed to be this entrepreneurial show that achieves what no other show I think has done yet, where we kind of focus on motivation, education, inspiration. So we're really trying to combine like those key aspects of business into an entertainment reality show. And I think we did a pretty good job. It's got a mix of everything.
I can't wait to watch it. And I watched the trailer and I got to check it out. I was thinking, oh, it dropped on the 8th. So I'm like, okay, I got to go back and this is my jam, right? I work with people because I have an agency, a digital agency, and I do some coaching. I'm not really a coach, but I ultimately see everyone's business journey from working with people that are CEOs of companies to working with people with products. And one of the biggest things, I think the biggest challenge for every one of them is not knowing how far they can take themselves. What are your thoughts on that? They just kind of limit themselves and they are afraid to take that next step.
Yeah, I call it like the 4 minute mile philosophy. So I teach a lot about this. I've done live presentations on this that, most of the time in business life and life in general, we're limited by our understanding and perception of reality and what's achievable. And so we build our life around it, right? We live where we were born because we don't think we can move out of that area. We will build a business to make 100 grand a year because that's all we think we can make per year. And then you get there and some people reset and go to that next level and that next level. And, you look at all the best athletes in the world or anyone that's achieved greatness. It's one thing in common is they all believe they could achieve greatness even before they got there.
Love
Now,
it.
that's a great point. And, Roger Bannister, I like
Yep.
that analogy, that what you said. That's a really great one. I've heard that so many times and I believe it. Besides that, Rudy, what would you say are the top three things that would make an entrepreneur successful? Obviously we know a lot of businesses fail within the first 5 years, but
Yeah.
what are those key metrics that you're seeing? What KPIs do they manage to for those top three things for the ones that are successful?
Yeah, I think it's a blend of like personality, right? Because as an entrepreneur in a small business, it's really like you that has to make it move. So I think we've already talked about kind of one, which is the mindset, right? The power of belief, the ability to go all in. Most entrepreneurs have high risk tolerance. So the mindset side is probably one. Number two is I always believe is having a compelling product and an offer that you can actually sell to the masses. We meet a lot of people where they kind of have a product, but it's not really unique and they don't really know how to portray it well. And it's like, it's very hard to sell. So, a big part of my job, and you even see this in episode 1 of the show, is taking something and unpackaging it to make it presentable and clear and what we call irresistible to the audience or the potential buyer. So I'd say that's number two. And then I would say number three is like really investing in marketing and sales. I think sadly, a lot of entrepreneurs think they make a good product and sales will just magically appear, but no one's going to come to your website or your social media unless you're able to really master marketing and sales.
And that's so key. And the thing is can your product sell?
Mhm.
Right. Well, I'll just go with the product. I have an amazing client that almost made it to Shark Tank called Wash and Jacks. And what I've learned from Wash and Jacks is specifically a great product, put it out in the market, had great reviews, get the Amazon store set up because they were having a different distributor and bam, it sells.
Yeah.
The thing I learned from that process is, I've worked with a lot of authors, I've worked with a lot of different people. It's if you're a great product and service and you get it to the right audience and you spend the right money, you're going to have success.
Yeah.
It's that bottom line. If why it's not selling, what do you tell people, especially in 60-day hustle, how they what they don't understand about that whole thing? They think sales will happen and their product isn't great. How do you kind of explain that to them so they don't, because it's their baby. It's like telling your kid's ugly. You know what I mean?
I think I break it down, because I do this for many years and thousands of people. I try and simplify things. I break, selling your product and scaling your business in the early days into two simple aspects. Aspect number one is traffic. You need people to actually go to your website to be able to buy. If you own a restaurant, you need people to walk in the front door. You can't get away from that in any aspect of business. You need people to know about you, and you need a lot of traffic or eyeballs on your business. Number two is, you need to be able to clearly differentiate yourself. And again, coming back to the product, what I call irresistible. And some of the feedback in the show was like, I like the idea, I like the product, but it's very similar to everything else out there. And I even tell them, I'm like, hey, I think if you had come in and your product was a little different and it did these things instead, you would have created what I call separation, enough separation to create more of a blue ocean for yourself where there is less competition. So yeah, really those two things.
That's pretty amazing. So Rudy, obviously I'm a little bit older, right? So a lot of my listeners are boomers and Gen Xers. We did a lot of cold calling in person and on the phone. Things have changed quite a bit now. I can't get anybody to pick up a phone. And if you try, you can't find them with the search warrant. What recommendations could you have for people like me and so on that are trying to build a solid pipeline and really get sales rolling?
Yeah, I think it's about automating. It's about automating your business now through social and lead generation. Like, I'm a big proponent of advertising and ad spend. Like, I've spent millions of my own money and tens of millions for advertising on social media. I think 90% of businesses now can create a system where the leads come to them. So a great example is just yesterday in my business, we had over 120 leads in one of my companies inbound, right? Where they actually come in and we actually automatically qualify them through a qualification process where they're answering questions. And of those 120 leads, about 50 of them ended up booking on a sales call where they show up to the sales call. And like you said, that's probably like a dream come true for a lot of businesses where they get 50 sales calls booked in a day. But again, because we built that automated process and it's qualifying them during the process. So yeah. And
spending money to make money.
Well, yeah, we spent a couple of grand just to generate those leads, and that's fine. I've spent 10, 20, 30 grand a day for many years of my life on advertising. And a lot of people don't, I think smaller entrepreneurs are scared of spending money, but you've got to spend money to make money. And it's an irrelevant point about spending money. If you spend 2 grand and make 5 grand or 10 grand back, then you're just going to keep doing it. And that's how I've grown my businesses.
And now, Rudy, where would the dinosaur begin to look into doing that type of marketing and lead gen?
Yeah, I mean, social media, the great thing now is between all the social platforms, you almost cover every demographic, right? So LinkedIn, you have a lot of working professionals. Instagram and Facebook, you have different middle kind of age groups. TikTok, Snapchat, younger age groups, for example. And then Google Ads, you have search intent-based advertising where people are searching for a problem or searching in a local area. So between those platforms, you pretty much have everything covered, and you just got to pick the right one for you.
And finding it if it's B2B versus B2C, which is a challenge because a lot of B2B marketers, as we got someone on as my co-host Greg Hanna, is B2B. It's not easy because B2B has not caught up to B2C. Would you agree?
Yeah, B2B, most of what I do is B2C for that reason, because it's mass market. B2B, we've done some in that space, and it's a little more what I call like a sniper approach, right? Where it's more intentional, it's more maybe in LinkedIn going after executives and having, appointment setters or virtual assistants doing more outreach. But it's pros and cons, right? B2C, you can get hundreds of leads and sales calls, but B2B, you might only need a few to make $1 million, whereas B2C, you might need 100,000, right? So there's pros and cons.
Now, Greg, I want to jump another question, then you can get right back. This is one that was really interesting. Is in 60-day hustle, do we see those specific things of different types of businesses, not just B2C, but B2B as well in the process? Or are they all mostly B2C people on the show?
Yeah, I think it's a mix. It's an interesting mix. I mean, it is a little more B2C consumer focused. But it's a great mix of businesses. It's a great mix of like I said, education, inspiration, and motivation. And I think we do a good job of not making it like a boring educational thing. It's still got a lot of fun components and challenge components to it. But everyone that's watched it, they actually walk away and go, wow, I actually really learned something here. So I think it's got a great mix, whether you're a beginner entrepreneur thinking about entrepreneurship, or I've had people doing this for 20 years that have texted me like, wow, I really enjoyed that session. I learned something new. So yeah.
That's very cool. So Rudy, for those people who haven't had a chance to, watch that first episode, or, want to jump on to looking at it, we're familiar with, The Apprentice, Shark Tank, and Gordon Ramsay's new show, The Food Stars. What's different about your show, and why should people jump on that and give you guys the cycles?
Yeah, look, I mean, I think it like I said, it's a bit more of a blend of reality TV with a challenge aspect, with a pitch panel aspect, and an educational aspect. So there's definitely a mix in there that you don't see in these other shows. And don't get me wrong, I love those other shows. I grew up watching some of them, and I'm friends with some of the people on some of those other shows. And they are awesome. But I think in general, there's a lack of good shows in that category. You listed 3, but you can't go on and list 30 probably, like you can in most niches. So I think there's a lack of content in that area. And secondly, if you like those shows, imagine you would put them all in a bowl and mix them together, and you have 60-Day Hustle.
Well, and that's what I mean, I watched the trailer and I'm like, I'm hooked. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, I had a challenging weekend, or I would already watched it. But I am just absolutely impressed with that. What about the whole situation as an entrepreneur? How do we unplug? This is the addiction of entrepreneurship. We can allow everyone in our lives to say, okay, they're a distraction, I'm gonna get them out. And it really can become that work-life balance is so strange when it comes to entrepreneurship. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I have an interesting take because I think you have to create what's right for you. Like, I don't think there's any right or wrong way. It's what's right for you. Like, some people can have a lot of fun and enjoyment and fulfillment and balance working 60, 70 hours a week still because they enjoy what they do. Whereas to someone that hates their job, 40 hours is more than enough, right? So you can't compare entrepreneurship to normal people because, eventually entrepreneurship blends into who you are, right? That is, and you get a lot of fulfillment. Like, and it also goes through cycles and phases, right? I grew with, didn't grow up with money, built my first business without any capital by myself, doing everything and working 16, 17 hours a day. Now I have, I grew to 120 employees last year, and I work a little less, but less to me is still 50, 60 hours. And that feels like I'm not working that much, honestly. So yeah, I think you've got to create what's right for you. But one thing you can't escape is if you want any level of success in your life, you've got to hustle. You look at pro athletes, they're training all day, every day. Kobe Bryant's famous for getting to the training center 3 hours before training even started and then staying after. So I think, as a society, I think we have the opposite problem where most people are afraid of hard work right now and they want success without putting in the effort. So yeah, figure out what's right for you, but also understand there's a direct correlation between hustle, energy, effort, and results.
Yeah, and that's athletes. Go ahead, Greg. Do you have one more question?
And Rudy, before you were mentioning what we were talking about marketing and so on. So obviously, besides people studying you and consuming all the content that you might have out there and available, who are 1 or 2 or 3 other people that maybe you look towards as a mentor, or have some great ideas and they could study their content and try to understand and build a nice foundation and bring it all together?
Yeah, I mean, I'm very fortunate with what I do. I speak around the world. I get to meet a lot of amazing people and work with lots of amazing people. Richard Branson, a very successful UK entrepreneur, someone I look up to. I've been fortunate enough to go and spend time with him on his island a couple of times, and I try and go every year. And I think being a British entrepreneur, there's not many people that got out of the UK and built something great. And he's definitely one of them for me. Fortunate also to work with some of the sharks from Shark Tank, people like Daymond John, and some of the sharks are really awesome because they've, built real businesses, but they also know how to help the beginner person, which is what you get to see in shows like that. So yeah, I think there's an amazing list of resources out there for people that are trying to build a business. And the great thing about the internet, you know, when I started 15, 16 years ago, you didn't have access to learning all these things. Like I failed for many years. Now you can go learn and take courses and go to events and really shortcut time and get a lot of inspiration along the way.
All right, Greg has a final question for you. So
Yeah, I
this
got a
is
great
one-
question for you. I can't wait to hear your answer. And thanks. And you know, Neil, I have to tell you, we got to get some Moa Rudy. We have to have him back. You know, so tell me, Rudy, what do you feel is the most important thing in life you've ever learned?
I think your energy environment and the people you spend your time with will dictate your happiness and success. Like I've moved countries, I've moved cities, I've surrounded myself with great people, and I think you get to choose where you live, you get to choose the people you spend your time with, and you have to protect your energy and environment as your most precious asset. Most people say it's time. I actually think it's energy and environment first. And just being with the right people that support your goals and dreams, and being you. And people say, like, one thing they love about me is I'm myself and I don't care what others think about me, and I'm doing my own. You know, they joke that we're in Rudy's world, right? And that's what I've always been like. And I think that's a secret to happiness, because especially with the internet now, everyone's too focused on what everyone else thinks about them versus living their version of their perfect life.
All right, well,
Thank you.
fantastic stuff. Check out 60 Day Hustle, available today on Amazon Prime, and we'll check it out. Appreciate it again, Rudy. Great stuff, and best of luck to you in your career and continued growth.
Yeah.
All right. All right, that's a
Thank you,
special simulcast of the Neil Haley Show and Celebrity Interviews.